Have you heard of freelancers in Pattaya? But be careful, we are not talking about technology, design, or marketing professional. In this context, the term has a very different meaning. Right in the middle of Walking Street, the most vibrant and controversial street in the city, so-called freelancers are part of a unique mechanism characterized by independence, informality, and a dynamic that even escapes the traditional structures of the adult entertainment industry in Thailand. This street, which resembles a large nighttime amusement park, attracts thousands of tourists every day from all over the world in search of intense, curious, and often unpredictable experience. Themed bars, nightclubs, flashing LED panels, music from all styles echoing at the same time. And amidst all this, women who are not tied to any establishment but circulate freely, offering companionship and services on their own terms. They are known as freelancers, and it is exactly about them that we will talk today. More than a tourist stroll, this video is a deep dive into a reality that mixes local culture, parallel economy, individual freedom, and of course, a good dose of controversy. We will understand who these women are, why they choose to operate this way, how the contact with tourists happens, and what all this reveals about the complexity of Walking Street, a place that, beyond its superficial glitter, reflects much about desire, consumption, and human relationships. If you are curious about different cultures and want to see beyond the obvious, subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell, and come with us. Because what you are about to see may change the way you look at Pattaya and the world. Walking Street in Pattaya is not just a street. It is an entire universe condensed into a few blocks. At first glance, what you see is an explosion of lights, sounds, and movement. Colorful signs vie for attention. Open bars spill music onto the sidewalk, and crowds of tourists walk slowly, absorbing every detail as if they were entering a movie set. But behind this appearance of an innocuous party lies a social and economic ecosystem that is much more complex than it seems. Understanding what Walking Street is fundamental to grasp why it has become the main meeting point between freelancers and tourists. Located in the heart of Pattaya in southern Thailand, Walking Street is just over a kilometer long but concentrates an impressive density of establishment geared towards adult entertainment. During the day, the street seems asleep, with closed facades and few people circulating. But as soon as the sun sets, it awakens to a frenetic rhythm. At 6 p.m., access for cars is closed, and the street transforms into a vibrant promenade where everything, absolutely everything, revolves around the night. Historically, Pattaya began as a fishing village. It was only in the 1960s, during the Vietnam War, that American soldiers, in search of rest and fun, spurred the emergence of bars, hotels, and entertainment houses. The city quickly adapted to this demand and, over the years, specialized in offering experiences geared towards adult tourism. Walking Street was born out of this process and has never lost its prominence since. Today, it is a trademark of the city, known internationally for both its intense nightlife and the services discreetly offered on the fringes of legality. What makes Walking Street unique is not just the number of bars or the variety of attractions. It is the way everything seems to exist in a state of controlled freedom. People from different cultures, ages, and intentions meet there. Curious couple, adventurous backpackers, groups of friends on bachelor parties, lonely retirees, business people seeking entertainment after meetings, all sharing the same space, each living a different experience, and sometimes crossing paths with the same figures that make the street so peculiar. The freelancer. While many sex workers are tied to establishments such as go-go bars, beer bars, or massage parlors, freelancers operate independently, and Walking Street is the ideal stage for this independent performance. The freedom of movement, the constant flow of tourists, and the permissive atmosphere create the perfect environment for subtle approaches, exchanges of glances, and quick negotiations. But for this to be possible, the street needs to offer more than just physical structure. It must ensure anonymity, turnover, and a certain normalization of informal contact. And that is exactly what happens there, night after night. Another point that makes Walking Street a unique space is the mix between the explicit and the implicit. While sensual shows are openly advertised at the bar doors, there are a series of interactions that happen almost in silence, with glances, gestures, and a language that only those present can perceive. This ambiguity is part of the magic. It is not just about the commerce of pleasure, but a theater where everyone assumes a role: the curious tourist, the experienced professional, the discreet security guard, the manager who observes everything. Each night is a new act, each client a new story. Even with increasing oversight and the impact of social transformations, such as the rise of family tourism and changes in legislation, Walking Street continues to be a symbol of a Pattaya that has not renounced its past. On the contrary, it has transformed its history into a product. And although this product is often criticized for promoting stereotypes or fueling sexual tourism, it continues to be sought after by thousands of visitors who come to the country in search of something they would not find anywhere else. Getting to know Walking Street is, therefore, more than just visiting a tourist attraction. It is entering a space where the rules of the normal world seem suspended for a few hours, where anything is allowed, or at least tolerated, and where, amidst lights and shadows, the most unexpected relationships are born. This includes freelancers who have chosen the street as their informal office. Walking through any stretch of Walking Street after sunset, it is impossible not to notice the presence of the so-called freelancer. They do not wear uniforms, do not have badges, nor do they work under the direct control of bars or clubs. They are there on their own, moving around naturally, stopping at strategic points or sitting alone in bars, appearing to simply enjoy the night. But there is something in their gaze, in their posture, in the way they observe the movement around them, that reveals a clear objective: to find a client. In the context of Pattaya, the term freelancer has taken on a rather specific meaning. It refers to women, mostly Thai, but also from neighboring countries such as Laos, Cambodia, and Myanmar, who offer companionship or intimate services to tourists independently. They have no ties to any establishment, do not pay commissions to anyone, and set their own working conditions. This freedom attracts many of them, as they prefer to control their schedule, negotiate directly with clients, and avoid the strict rules or targets imposed by bar and massage parlor owners. The profile of freelancers is quite varied. Some are young, others more mature. Some are in the city only for a season, while others have lived there for years. Some do this as their main occupation, while others work sporadically to supplement their income. What they all have in common is an impressive ability for social reading. They know how to identify tourists open to an approach, decipher the type of client in front of them, and quickly adjust the tone of the conversation. They are, above all, observant, and this is one of the elements that makes the experience of encountering them so unique. The location of their activity also changes according to their profile. Some prefer to stay in front of large nightclubs, where the flow of tourists is intense and the loud music helps maintain a discreet approach. Others stand on street corners near the entrances to side alleys, where there is more tranquility for conversation. There are also those who choose to position themselves inside regular bars, sitting alone with a drink in hand, waiting for a foreigner to strike up a conversation. In recent years, many have migrated to dating apps like Tinder, Badoo, or even social networks like Facebook and Instagram, where they start conversations and arrange meetings outside the traditional street circuit. An important point is that, despite remaining on the margins of the formal structure, freelancers are not completely helpless. There is an informal support and communication network among them. Some share information about problematic clients, while others help each other when they perceive a risky situation. In certain areas of the city, there is even the figure of a friend or acquaintance who stays at a distance, observing, ready to intervene if something goes wrong. It is an unofficial but functional network that helps ensure a minimum level of safety within an activity full of risks. The decision to work as a freelancer usually involves a combination of factors. The possibility of keeping 100% of the fees charged is a strong attraction. Additionally, the absence of bosses, daily targets, and fixed hours gives a sense of autonomy that many value. Some report that they prefer the informality, even with its dangers, over being tied to abusive contracts in establishments that require long hours, document retention, or exorbitant commission fees. There are also those who see the activity as an opportunity to meet people from different cultures, practice foreign languages, and possibly find a chance to change their lives. On the other hand, the routine of freelancers is not glamorous. They face constant competition, financial instability, and the insecurity of being exposed to unpredictable clients. There are no guarantees, nor clear legal protection. They depend on the street's movement, the tourist's mood, and successful negotiations. And although many manage this reality well, it remains fragile. On a bad night, they may return home with no earnings. On a risky night, they may put their own safety at stake. It is this delicate balance between independence and vulnerability that defines the presence of freelancers on Walking Street. They are, at the same time, protagonists and invisible. They are part of the landscape, but are rarely recognized as individuals with stories, reasons, and limits. Understanding who these women are is essential to comprehend why Walking Street functions as it does, and why it is so different from any other place in the world. The dynamic between tourists and freelancers in Pattaya follows an unwritten script, but one that is repeated night after night, with small variations depending on each person's experience, profile, and intention. There is no official protocol for approaching, but there are patterns, signals, and a type of silent communication that guides these interactions from the first visual contact to the final agreement. For many visitors, this process begins almost casually, but behind each gesture, there is a subtle reading of the environment, behavior, and the right moment to approach. Generally, it is the freelancer who gives the first signal. This may be a lingering look, a discreet smile, or a softly spoken "hi" as she crosses paths with a tourist. There is not always a direct approach right away. Many prefer to observe before acting. They assess whether the man is alone, if he is sober, and if he seems receptive. In some cases, the tourist takes the initiative, starting a conversation or offering a drink. The important thing, at this first moment, is the atmosphere of lightness. Everything happens informally, as if it were just a conversation between strangers on any night. If the interest is mutual, the conversation naturally evolves. Simple questions like, "Where are you from? Is this your first time in Thailand?" Or, "Are you enjoying Pattaya?" serve as opening. Body language comes into play. Subtle touches on the arm, more frequent laughter, physical closeness. Gradually, what began as flirting transforms into negotiation, almost always without appearing to be one. In many cases, values are not openly discussed at the beginning. The freelancer senses the mood, observes the client's disposition, tests the limits with indirect questions. When negotiation occurs, it is usually brief and to the point. Some freelancers set fixed prices, while others are more flexible. The price can vary based on the agreed time, the meeting location, client's hotel, rented room, etc., and the type of service expected. On average, the prices range from 1,000 to 3,000 baht for a few hours of company. But these numbers can change significantly, depending on the freelancer's appearance, the tourist's nationality, and how the conversation unfolds. The agreement is made directly, but always with care. No one wants to attract attention or appear aggressive. Interestingly, many freelancers prefer to avoid very busy or brightly lit places to discuss details. Some invite the client to walk to a quieter spot, while others suggest entering a more discreet bar. The goal is to ensure a minimum of privacy and avoid curious glances, both from other tourists and authority. After all, despite the tacit tolerance that exists on Walking Street, there are still risks associated with very obvious negotiation. Another common way to approach is inside bars. Freelancers often enter busy establishments alone, order a drink, and wait. When a tourist invites them to sit or pays for a drink, the first step is taken. From there, everything depends on the conversation. Some manage to close deals within minutes, while others invest more time, creating a more natural atmosphere before proposing something. There are also those who do not make the proposal directly. They wait for the client to take the initiative and only react to it. There are tourists who, due to ignorance or naivety, believe they are just flirting or making friends, not realizing they are interacting with a freelancer. This can lead to confusion, especially when there are romantic expectations on one side and professional intentions on the other. For this reason, some freelancers make it clear from the start that they are working that night, avoiding misunderstanding. Others prefer to let the situation flow, betting on their experience to guide the conversation to the desired point. In some cases, the agreement only involves companionship for the rest of the night, going to other bars, dancing, talking. The intimate aspect may come later, or may not happen at all. This flexibility is one of the hallmarks of freelance work. They do not only sell sex but also attention, presence, and momentary affection, even if staged. And many tourists, even knowing this, value precisely that feeling of fleeting connection. For some, it is less about physical pleasure and more about not feeling alone in a city where everything is ephemeral. However, this type of relationship requires care. There are unspoken rules that must be respected. Be polite. Do not force situations. Do not disrespect established boundaries. The freelancer can refuse the client at any moment, even after a long dialogue. In general, those who insist or try to cross these boundaries are quickly isolated, not only by the professional, but also by the informal network that exists among them. Walking street may seem like a territory without rules, but there are codes that keep the silent functioning of the night. This game of approaches and negotiations is, in many ways, the heart of Walking Street. It is there, in this gray area between public and private, that the fastest and most complex relationships in the city are established. Understanding how all this happens helps to realize that nothing there is by chance. Every movement has a purpose. Every smile has a strategy, and every night brings the possibility of a new, silent agreement between two people who may never see each other again. The nightlife in Pattaya does not revolve solely around freelancers, although they are a striking element of the scene. The entire city seems to have been designed to function when the sun goes down. Walking Street, as the epicenter, is just the beginning. A few meters away, dozens of other smaller streets and alleys, illuminated by neon lights, spread out, where the party continues in different formats. It is in this environment that nightlife gains layers, alternating between the extravagant and the casual, the explicit and the subtle, the traditional and the completely unexpected. The starting point for many tourists is the go-go bars. Bars with stages where women dance in sexy outfits, interacting with customers and, in some cases, available to leave the venue for a fee known as a bar fine. These bars have a specific structure. Dancers take turns on stage, waiters circulate with drinks, and customers can call the professionals to chat, buy them a drink, and, if there is mutual interest, take them outside. Go-go bars function as intermediary and have their own rules, different from the free operation of freelancer. Beer bars are more open, almost always located on sidewalks or under awnings, with exposed tables and direct interaction. It is common to see Thai women sitting next to customers, playing pool, toasting, and laughing loudly. Many of these women are also available for companionship, and the logic of the bar is simple. The longer the customer stays consuming, the more everyone wins. It is a less structured environment than go-go bars, but with an equally intense dynamic. It is in this middle ground between structure and informality that freelancers also operate. Some circulate through these bars, mingling among employees and customers, flirting, disappearing, and reappearing as the night progresses. Additionally, there are cabaret shows, very popular among tourists, especially family groups or couples. These performances, featuring choreographed acts by transgender artists, blend music, dance, and theater, creating a visual spectacle that attracts visitors of all ages. Although they do not have a direct relationship with the freelancers' activities, the cabarets contribute to the nightlife scene and help shape Pattaya's plural and sometimes confusing image as a city of entertainment. The presence of freelancers in this landscape is strategic. They do not compete directly with the bars but orbit around them, taking advantage of the constant flow of excited tourists willing to spend. Some become regular customers of certain bars, forming friendly relationships with the staff and even contributing to the local business. In some cases, bar owners themselves tolerate or even discreetly encourage the presence of these women, as long as they do not disrupt the main business. It is a game of coexistence, and each side understands its role. As the night progresses, the profile of the patrons on Walking Street changes. Early in the evening, the curious, couples exploring for the first time, and groups seeking safe fun predominate. But after midnight, the atmosphere transforms. The music gets louder, the drinks get stronger, the bars become more vibrant, and the street fills with a raw energy. It is at this moment that freelancers become more active. The heat, alcohol, and anonymity create the perfect environment for more direct approaches. There are also more sophisticated nightclubs, like Insomnia and Lucifer, where international DJs play, and the dance floor becomes open territory for encounters. In these places, freelancers mingle like anyone else. It is impossible to know who is just having fun and who is working. This adds to the charm and confusion. Many tourists do not realize that the woman dancing alone or with a group of friends may actually be looking for a client. The line between leisure and work is deliberately blurred. Amid all this, there are also those who are not interested in anything sexual. They come to Walking Street just to observe, have a cold beer, and feel the unique vibe of the place. The street welcomes everyone: the voyeur, the adventurer, the loner, the unsuspecting, the curious, and perhaps that is why it remains so vibrant, despite criticism and attempts at regulation. Each night in Pattaya is a mosaic of intention, and every person who passes through contributes to the scene, even without realizing it. The freelancers are, therefore, part of a larger ecosystem. They are not isolated, nor are they absolute protagonists, but their presence adds a specific layer to the Pattaya experience. They represent the direct encounter between the tourist and the city, without intermediaries, without fixed rules, without guarantees. And that, in itself, says a lot about the spirit of Walking Street, a place where anything can happen, where nothing is permanent, and where each night reinvents itself with its own characters and improvised scripts. Discussing the presence of freelancers in Pattaya inevitably leads us to a delicate question: how is all this sustained legally? After all, it is an activity that flirts with illegality, taking place in plain sight, in front of police, cameras, tourists, and locals. And yet, it remains there, night after night, operating with an almost official regularity. The answer lies in a complex combination of ambiguous laws, social tolerance, institutional omission, and, of course, economic interests that keep everything in balance, or at least in suspension. In Thailand, prostitution has been officially illegal since the enactment of the Prevention and Suppression of Prostitution Act in 1996. The legislation prohibits the offer of sexual services for payment, whether in public or private spaces. Solicitation, pimping, and operating places intended for prostitution are also considered crimes. In practice, however, law enforcement is extremely selective. The activity not only occurs but is visible, organized, and, in many cases, tolerated by local authorities. This creates what has come to be known as a legal gray area. Freelancers fit perfectly into this undefined space. Since they are not tied to any establishment, have no employer, fixed location, or formal registration of activity, it is difficult for the legal system to prove that a commercial transaction is taking place. Even if a police officer witnesses the conversation between a tourist and a freelancer, they are unlikely to have enough evidence to make an arrest. The agreement is verbal, payment is made in cash, and everything happens with extreme discretion. There is no receipt, no contract, no direct witness. Silence is part of the business. Additionally, there is an informal culture of institutional tolerance. Many local agents know exactly what happens on Walking Street, but choose not to intervene, in part because they understand that the presence of these women drives the local economy. Hotels, bars, restaurants, transportation, everything revolves around tourism, and in part because there is a parallel structure of informal payments, so-called protection fees, or bribes, that ensure the continuation of the activity in exchange for non-enforcement. It is not something officially acknowledged, but it is widely discussed by those who live and work in Pattaya. From a legal standpoint, the very concept of a freelancer complicates accountability. Since the woman operates on her own, without a pimp or an entertainment house behind her, she appears as an autonomous figure, supposedly outside the structures of organized crime. This image of relative freedom is what keeps many freelancers off the legal radar. But it is a precarious freedom. If there is a police raid, a targeted operation, or a specific complaint, she can be detained, deported, in the case of foreign women, fined, or at the very least exposed to an embarrassing situation. It is also important to remember that the activities of freelancers are not covered by any labor legislation. They do not have formal contracts, rights to vacation, health insurance, or any social protection. If they suffer abuse, harassment, or assault, they often hesitate to seek police assistance, whether out of fear of retaliation, distrust in the authorities, or concern that they too will be penalized for being involved in illegal activity. This absence of legal support contributes to the ongoing vulnerability of these professionals, who operate in a space where everything depends on their own ability to protect themselves. There is also a risk for tourists themselves. While many see Walking Street as a free territory, it is important to remember that Thai law is still in effect and can be enforced at any moment. There have been cases of tourists being detained for involvement with minors or due to misunderstandings with freelancers who felt deceived, assaulted, or disrespected. In such cases, even if the initial negotiation seemed consensual, the legal consequences can be serious. Ignorance of the law is no excuse, and those who think they are off the radar because they are in a foreign country may be negatively surprised. This scenario creates a tense coexistence between what is prohibited by law and what is allowed in practice. The public authorities often act only when there is negative international fallout or internal political pressure. In specific instances, nightclubs are shut down, enforcement operations are reported in the media, and some professionals are detained. But most of the time, everything returns to normal within a few days. Walking Street has an incredible ability to reorganize. Bar names change, operating hours shift, and approaches are altered. But the essential structure remains. It is precisely this invisible yet functional structure that ensures the existence of freelancers. They live on a legal tightrope, balancing between what is socially accepted and what can be criminalized at any moment. This ambiguity is also strategic. It allows the city to continue attracting tourists without needing to officially assume the role of an adult tourism hub. Everything remains unspoken, in a silent agreement, in the discreet complicity among those who offer, those who consume, and those who pretend not to see. And it is this informal and unstable pact that keeps Walking Street functioning as it is, a place where the rules of the game are flexible, where legality is a matter of interpretation, and where everything can change from one day to the next. For freelancers, it is the price of freedom. For tourists, it is the risk of the illusion of impunity. And for Pattaya, it is the delicate balance between what sustains its fame and what threatens its reputation. Amid so many layers surrounding Walking Street, hearing directly from those who live or visit the place is essential to understanding the real dimension of this environment. More than theories or external analyses, it is the accounts, spontaneous, contradictory, sometimes even surprising, that reveal the human nature behind the neon atmosphere. These are voices coming from different parts of the world with distinct experiences, but that end up, in some way, connected by this common space where everything happens and nothing is predictable. We begin with Alex, a 38-year-old Canadian tourist who has been visiting Pattaya regularly for almost a decade. He says that his first experience on Walking Street was both fascinating and uncomfortable. On that first night, I didn't know what I was seeing. I felt like I was in a chaotic dream. Lights, music, women approaching me, men negotiating with ease. I didn't know if it was allowed, encouraged, or just tolerated. It seemed like a code that everyone knew except me. Today, he says he understands the dynamics better, and, although he has been involved with freelancers a few times, he views the experience with more awareness and respect. It's not just about pleasure, it's about loneliness, curiosity, and sometimes even about neediness. On the opposite side of the experience, there are tourists who leave frustrated or even traumatized. This is the case with Enrique, a Spaniard who, on his first visit to Thailand, got involved with a freelancer without fully understanding what was happening. I thought she was just a nice girl I had talked to in a bar. She was friendly, fun, said she liked me. When I invited her to my hotel, I thought something spontaneous was happening. The next day, she asked for money and got angry when I hesitated. I felt used. But at the same time, I realized that the mistake was mine. I entered a game without knowing the rules. There are also reports coming from freelancers. Although few are willing to speak openly, some share snippets of their routines on social media or in anonymous forums. One of them, who introduces herself as Ning, describes in a personal blog how she deals with the ups and downs of life on Walking Street. There are good nights and bad nights. Sometimes I meet someone nice, polite, who treats me with respect. Other times, I have to deal with drunks, aggressive men, tourists who think they can do anything just because they are paying. She says she has learned to be selective, that she only accepts clients she feels safe with, and that she has turned down many encounters even on nights with no earnings. It's not worth the risk for little money. I know how to take care of myself. Testimonies like these reveal an important truth. There is not a single story on Walking Street. Each person who passes through there lives a unique experience, shaped by expectations, values, circumstances, and of course, their own behavior. Some leave enchanted by the freedom and exoticism. Others leave regretful, confused, or even emotionally hurt. And for those who live there, whether as residents, professionals, or merchant, the street is more than a postcard. It is part of the routine, with everything that entails: banality, fatigue, tough choices, and a certain acceptance of what is possible within the given conditions. It is curious to realize that, despite the intensity of the experience, many visitors return. Some return out of nostalgia, others because they feel they did not manage to understand everything the first time. Some come back in search of connection. Some return just to observe. Walking Street has that effect. It awakens something that goes beyond simple tourism. It confronts, engages, seduces, and sometimes frustrates, but it almost never leaves anyone indifferent. These accounts help to humanize the discussion. Instead of viewing Walking Street as an exotic or merely touristic phenomenon, we begin to see it as a meeting space between very different worlds, where desire, survival, affection, and illusion intertwine, and where each story carries within it a small part of this great narrative that makes Pattaya a unique place. The presence of freelancers on Walking Street is not just a nighttime phenomenon. It is also a direct reflection of how the local economy and culture have shaped themselves around tourism. To understand the real impact of these professionals on Pattaya, it is necessary to look beyond the illuminated street, beyond the discreet negotiations and fleeting encounters. We must understand how the city has organized itself to embrace and, in a way, depend on this constant flow of visitors seeking experiences that go beyond the conventional. Pattaya is an extreme example of an economy almost entirely based on tourism. Hotels, restaurants, currency exchange, transportation, commerce, bars, nightclubs, travel agencies, small street entrepreneurs. Everything revolves around the visitor, the figure of the tourist, often Western and with purchasing power above the local average, is the center of the machinery. And within this logic, the presence of freelancers plays a role that goes far beyond what may seem at first glance. These women move money directly, of course, through the agreements they make with clients. But the impact goes beyond that. A satisfied client from their night will likely consume more at the bar where they met someone, stay at the hotel for more days, go on daytime excursions, return to the city, or recommend the destination to others. The presence of freelancers helps, indirectly, to maintain a constant tourist flow, especially from men traveling alone or in groups. They are part of the complete package that Pattaya offers, a package that mixes beach, good food, nightlife, and a freedom that not every place provides. For many Thai women, working as freelancers represents not only a source of income, but a concrete way out of poverty. In poorer regions of the country, especially in the northeast, Isan, migration to tourist cities like Pattaya is common. In these regions, job opportunities are scarce, wages are low, and the prospect of social mobility is limited. Working independently, negotiating directly with tourists can make a significant difference in quality of life, not just for the woman, but for her entire family. That is why, despite the risks and instability, many choose to follow this path. From a cultural perspective, Thailand lives in a paradox. On one hand, it is a country deeply influenced by traditional Buddhist values that promote modesty, respect, and family honor. On the other, it has learned to coexist with an adult entertainment industry that is both tolerated and criticized. Freelancers exist in this ambiguous space. They are not officially recognized, but they are part of the urban landscape. They are not celebrated figures, but they sustain a significant part of the local economy. It is a coexistence based on social silence, on veiled acceptance, and sometimes on institutional hypocrisy. The COVID-19 pandemic laid bare this economic dependence. With borders closed and tourism paralyzed, Pattaya collapsed. Bars closed, hotels emptied. Freelancers returned to their hometowns or sought other means of survival. The impact was devastating. Many residents who previously criticized the lifestyle of Walking Street began to recognize how dependent the city was on that ecosystem. It was a collective shock that highlighted the fragility of an economic model based on a single sector. Today, with the gradual reopening of tourism, Pattaya is trying to reposition itself. There are efforts to diversify attractions, attract families, promote water sports, wellness tourism, and cultural events. But even with all these rebranding attempts, Walking Street remains the main attraction, and freelancers continue to be part of the equation, even if in smaller numbers or with a more discreet presence. It is difficult to erase an identity built over decades. The challenge, therefore, lies in how to reconcile this freer and controversial side of the city with a more modern and internationally acceptable image. Adult tourism is no longer a secret, nor can it be treated as a marginal problem. It is part of the structure. Pretending it doesn't exist or trying to eliminate it without offering real alternatives only sweeps the issue under the rug. What Pattaya needs, as a city, is to acknowledge this reality with maturity and seek ways to protect those who work in this sector, reduce harm, and expand possibilities. In this scenario, freelancers are invisible agents of a vital economic machinery. They operate between marginality and centrality, between independence and vulnerability. And even if they lack a union, political representation, or a place in the city's official propaganda, their impact is concrete, in numbers, in narratives, in the behind the scenes of the economy. Understanding this is essential for discussing Pattaya honestly. After exploring the vibrant scene of Walking Street, understanding who the freelancers are, how they operate, what motivates their choices, and what social, legal, and economic impact this dynamic represents, it is inevitable to arrive at a central question. What does all this say about us, about tourism, and about the world we are helping to build when we travel in search of extraordinary experiences? Walking Street, with all its contradictions, is more than a tourist spot. It is a mirror of desires, inequalities, choices, and silences. It exposes how tourism can be a powerful tool, both for social transformation and for silent exploitation. The encounter between tourists and freelancers does not happen in a vacuum. It is the result of a global system in which one person's money can buy another's attention, time, and often intimacy. This is not exclusive to Thailand or the streets of Pattaya, but here, everything happens in broad daylight, or more accurately, under neon lights. And this changes the way we perceive reality. It is important to make it clear. This is not about blaming anyone or moralizing the experience. Many tourists who engage with freelancers are not there out of perversity or disrespect. They are often seeking companionship, human warmth, connection, an escape from routine. Similarly, many freelancers are not there due to a lack of values or unchecked ambition. They are surviving, trying to secure a livelihood, making choices with the resources and possibilities available to them. When we look closely, what appears to be a simple one-night agreement reveals itself as a meeting between two distinct but legitimate human needs. The big question is, how do we deal with this? Can we pretend it doesn't happen? Can we condemn without understanding? Or can we look with more empathy, more maturity, and more awareness? In making this video, the intention was never to glamorize or demonize. It was to understand, to show, to unveil. Because only by truly knowing can we move beyond the superficial and begin to see the human being behind the roles each one represents. If you've made it this far, congratulations. It shows you are willing to listen, to reflect, and to look beyond the surface. And that is why I want to hear from you now. What do you think about all this? Do you believe there is a fairer, more transparent and respectful way to deal with this type of tourism? Or do you think that certain experiences, even when consensual, cross moral and ethical boundaries? Leave your opinion in the comment. Here, the debate is open, but always with respect and empathy. And if this content has made you think differently, brought a new perspective, or even confirmed something you already felt, go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell. This helps us continue bringing up topics that many people avoid, but that need to be discussed. Walking Street is a place where life happens without filter, and perhaps, precisely because of that, it forces us to rethink what we are seeking when we decide to explore the world. See you in the next video.